Welcome to INSG News. I'm Sheila Vivero.
And I'm Jackie France,
the host that never stopped giving.
This week we'll be covering the Cold War
and its related events.
I have more on the story. So the Cold War was a state of political hostility between the Soviet bloc and the US-led Western powers. The main cause was the fear of communism overtaking certain countries. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Jackie, for the enlightenment.
Now, Madeline Watt with the Marshall Plan.
The plan is named for George C. Marshall, who announced it in a commencement speech at Harvard University on June 5, 1947. He was the Secretary of State. Back to Jackie and Sheila.
Today we have a special guest, reporter Alyssa Gainey on the Vietnam War. Alyssa, what can you tell us?
All I can say is the Vietnam War was basically North versus South. It was VidCon. It was started on November 1st, 1955. It ended on April 30th, 1975. It ended with the withdrawal of the U.S. forces in 1973 and the unification of Vietnam under communist control 2 years later. More than 3 million people, including 58,000 Americans, were killed. It ended up the French ruled at the end, divided Vietnam into two different, North and South. That's basically it.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Go.
General George MacArthur led the UN forces on an attack at the Battle of Incheon. The battle was a success, and MacArthur was able to move in and rout much of the North Korean army. He soon had retaken control of the city of Seoul as well as South Korea back up to the 38th parallel.
Reporter Alyssa Gainey has more on the Soviet-Afghan War. Alyssa, what do you have to say?
Well, what I have to say is it lasted over 9 years. Started December 1979, ended February 1989. So, more than 100,000 Soviet troops were controlling. Afghanistan returned to non-aligned status, and during it, uprisings with internal fighting and coups within the government between the People's and Banner's factions prompted the Soviets to invade the country.
Very interesting, Alyssa. Thank you for reporting on
Interesting, right?
the Soviet-Afghan War. We will be back after this short break.
mainly on the Cambodia and Khmer Rouge. So, Alyssa, what can you tell us?
What can I tell you? In 1960s and 1970s, Cambodia was being pulled in many different directions. They were in the middle of the Civil War, and then at the same time they're getting pulled into the Vietnam War with the conflict and all that. And Americans, they were killed in that war. 750 Cambodians in the Vietnam War killed the Americans. 150 were killed in the Civil War. Basically, people who threatened communism, they thought should be killed. The biggest threats were intellectuals. They felt that they could question them, they're smarter than them, they didn't like that. So they were all killed. Even extended family of intellectuals. So if you're the cousin of a smart teacher, oh well, you're being killed. Laughing was a reason to kill. They were so trigger happy, they just kill them all. December 25th, 1978, the Vietnamese invaded Cambodia, entered the Khmer Rouge, and the Cambodian genocide, more than 2 million were killed. Just 2 million were killed. Crazy, huh?
Wow. Thanks, Alyssa, for that story.
No problem.
I am Ashley Webb with INSG News. Today I will be reporting about the Chinese Civil War. On 25th, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. The South Korean army fled, and forces from the United Nations came to help out. The United Nations provided the majority of the United Nations forces. Soon, the South Korean government only occupied a small part of North Korea on the southern tip. At first, the United Nations was only trying to defend South Korea. However, after the first summer of fighting, President Truman decided to go on the offensive. He said the war was now about liberating North Korea from communism.
Go.
General George MacArthur led the UN forces on an attack at the Battle of Incheon. The battle was a success, and MacArthur was able to move in and rout much of the North Korean army. He soon had retaken control of the city of Seoul as well as South Korea back up to the 38th parallel. Ridgeway fortified the border just north of the 38th parallel. Here the two sides would battle for the rest of the war. North Korea would attack the South at various points, and the UN army would retaliate, trying to prevent more attacks. Mr. Bowman, how do you feel about the Korean Civil War?
Amazing. It's a lovely movie. I love movies.
This has been Ashley Webb with ISNG.
Now we're off to a report from Tiger Hernandez.
Hi, I'm Tiger Hernandez reporting for INSG News, and today we'll be talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis occurred in 1962 when the Soviet Union began to install nuclear missiles in Cuba. The United States refused to allow this, and after 13 tense days and many secret negotiations, excuse me, como se dice, you're interrupting me, so back off. And after many secret negotiations, the Soviet Union agreed to remove the missiles. This is perhaps the closest that the United States and the Soviet Union came to nuclear war during the Cold War. Prior to the crisis, the United States had attempted to overthrow Fidel Castro and the current government of Cuba with the Bay of Pigs invasion. The invasion failed, but it served as a warning to Fidel Castro. Also, the United States had installed several nuclear missile sites in Turkey and Italy with the range to strike Moscow, the capital of the Soviet Union. As a result, the Soviet Union felt that they needed missile sites that they could strike the United States. At the same time, however, the Cuban government wanted protection from the United States. The two countries decided to work together and have the Soviet Union put the nuclear missiles in Cuba that were capable of striking any portion of the USA. On October 14, 1962, an American U-2 spy plane flying over Cuba captured the pictures of the long-range Soviet missiles in Cuba. This was a crisis like never before. These missiles could reach any point of the United States with nuclear warheads causing mass destruction. President Kennedy called a meeting with his main security advisors, which they considered a number of options, from diplomacy to a full-scale attack and invasion on Cuba. The Joint Chiefs of Staff voted to invade. They felt this was the only viable option. However, Kennedy was concerned that this would start World War III between the US and the Soviet Union. He opted to set a naval blockade, which in turn forced the Soviets to remove the missiles out of Cuba. That's it.
We have been your anchors that never stop giving.
I'm Sheila Bibera,
I'm Jackie France,
along with Alyssa Gainey,
Ashley Webb,
Tiger Hernandez,
and Madeline Watt.
thanks for watching.
See you next. It's fine. It's fine.
So close.
I just add that to the